You have to take the blessings that God gives you and use them to the best of your ability. Because if you don't use them, you will use, because if you don't use them, you will lose them. We have to keep in mind that if you focus on the gifts that God has given you, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, anything. But you have to continue to use the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge that you have to learn that thing, to learn to be better at that thing, to learn to embrace that thing. You have to embrace that thing until it becomes a part of your being. And God gives you the capacity to do that by allowing you the peace of mind that's needed to block the outside noise, to keep away the negative energy. See, we have to keep in mind that every moment you spend not becoming the best version of yourself or not building yourself into what you want to be in life is a moment you wasted that you'll never get back. And God doesn't give you do-overs. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be 10 years younger. This is life. It continues to progress, and you have to make sure that you're on par to be on schedule with being where you need to be when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40, 50, and so on and so forth. The bottom line is, no matter how tough things get, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter how many negative naysayers there are, negative energy surrounds you, or how it seems like you just can't get the job done, you have to never give up on yourself, because yourself is all you have. The greatest gift that God gave you is yourself. So you have to get to know that gift as best you can. You have to get to know that gift. You have to know the strengths of that gift. You know, we don't talk about strengths and weaknesses. We talk about strengths and normalcy. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have any weaknesses. Anything you compare to your strengths is going to be weaker, but it's not a weakness. It is just not as strong as your strengths. But everything about you is a strong suit. You just have to take the strongest suits and use those to motivate yourself in the other areas. Because this is the thing. If you're a mathematician, and I'm talking about just a natural mathematician, well, your reading comprehension skills may not have to be as good as your mathematician skills. But as long as your reading comprehension skills are enough to be a secondary support system to your mathematician skills, then so what? We're not all going to have, none of us actually are going to have all strengths. We're going to have some things that we're out of this world in, and then we're going to have some other things that we're just normal in. The thing is, man, you have to understand this. You can determine your outcome by following the path that God has for you. Can you get another outcome another way? Of course. But why take 15 years fighting to get something done in your life when if you were on the path you need to be on, you could have got it done in 5 years? Why waste 10 extra years to end up being something that's not even meant for you to be? That's how you cap out in life. You have to focus on what you need to be and not worry about what people say. You know, I tell y'all about this all the time. Steve Harvey said he didn't buy his first car in his name until he was 38. Now, anybody who's accomplished anything younger than 38 can't look at their life and compare to Steve Harvey's life and say they have a better life, at least not financially. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this guy's worth tens of millions of dollars and has a name that can demand 6 figures just to show up. So we have to keep in mind that it's not about when you become what you're supposed to be. It's about what you do when you cross that threshold into the life that you're supposed to be living. And the number one thing you have to do is put God first, man. You have to put God first in order to keep grinding and growing in the right way. I just referenced Steve Harvey, but look at his life. Look at how his life is running him ragged. Look at how his wife is running him ragged. Look at how his wife is taking control of his life. Look at how he's in a situation where he can't even seem to, overcome the need to embrace femininity as a part of his own being. These are the types of things that we have to understand as men. You have to equip yourself with value. And I'm not talking about value as far as what the world esteems as value, because value changes all the time in the world, man. You remember the time everybody was wearing yellow gold? Now all of a sudden everybody is wearing platinum, which may or may not be white gold, depending on what you know and if you know what you're looking at. But you got to think about it. Once upon a time, yellow gold was what people wore. Now people don't wear it anymore. But you know what? Yellow gold is still very valuable in the financial sector. So when you look at something that's not valued in the public, you look at it in the financial sector, still as valuable as ever. Still companies going around every day, showing up in cities saying, bring all your old gold to us. Why? So they can melt it down in the blocks. They ain't gonna turn around and sell that gold jewelry, man. They collecting gold. Might be something I need to do myself, actually. So you got to keep in mind, man, that, and this is an old saying, your mind is a terrible thing to waste. Why would you waste your mind? It guides everything you do. Your spirit is your foundation, but your mind guides your behavior. Your mind tells your body what to do. Your mind tells you what to eat. Your mind tells you what to drink, when to sleep, when to wake. All of these things are controlled by your mind. So when you waste your mind, you waste your life. The saying should be, a life is a terrible thing to waste. Because in all actuality, it really is. See, I think the problem in this society is we all search for pacification. We all search for pacification. You know, I used to tell guys all the time, man, if I was an artist, man, and won a Grammy, man, I'd go on stage, man, and my acceptance speech would be this. You know, I appreciate the Academy for, nominating me and voting for me for this award. And I appreciate all my fans and all the support, but I cannot, in good, sound mind and body, accept this award because what I've done is just a blessing from God. And he's already given me much more than this award will ever be worth. And I leave it on the stage, man, and walk off. That's what I would do. And I've always said that, for when I was young, I said that. So, it's like those things, man, well, younger, I said that, man, but it's one of those things where you can't be out here just seeking pacification for everything you do. You can't seek approval for everything you do. Like you can't seek a reward for everything you do. You can't do this for everything you do. My son called me the other day, man, and said, Dad, they sent your silver play button yet? I was like, nah, man, they ain't sent it, man. They may send me one, they may not. He said, you don't want it? I said, man, if they send it, it's cool. I may put it up in the background, man. I may not, it's cool if they send it. That's what they do. So if they do it, it's cool. But it's not something that I'm like, oh, I get the silver play button now. Why? Because it's just something that recognizes a certain point in life. But the further you get away from that point, the less it matters. You know what I'm saying? The further you get away, I tell you like this: people who get when you get the silver play button, people who get the gold play button, they don't even have the silver play button up anymore. Why? Because it represented a point in life that they've passed. They've gotten to the next level of life. The more accolades and rewards you collect, you will understand that as you move past those levels and get to new levels in life, those accolades and awards, they matter less. You know what I'm saying? You think LeBron is still thinking about that second championship he won in Miami? No, he went back and won one in Cleveland. Now he's won one in LA. Trying to win another one in LA. You know what I'm saying? So you got to keep in mind, man, that, of course, the first time you accomplish something, it feels wonderful. It's a sense of accomplishment that you may not have had before, like winning a championship, hitting 100K subs, hitting 1 million subs, getting your first $1 million. There's a bunch of things you can accomplish, getting your first college degree. There's a bunch of things you can accomplish that for the first time, you never had that sensation. But then as you start on that path, this sensation becomes just a part of the process. So I want you men to start focusing on the processes. Don't focus on the rewards and awards. Focus on the process. God put you here and gave you wisdom, understanding, knowledge to compete a process. Whatever accolades come with that process, okay, they come with it. But guess what? After you get the accolade, the process doesn't stop. You have to continue grinding through this life. You have to continue. So you have to treat learning like a full-time job. Sometimes I say a part-time job, but if you got a full-time job, you got to treat it like a part-time job. But learning who you are. All these things people want to learn. Hey, what book do you recommend? Well, I recommend you learn the book of you. Who you are as a man is the greatest book you could ever read and learn. And it's a simple book, but it takes a lifetime to read it. It's the type of book where every time you finish the last chapter, you wake up and there's a new chapter. And you got to write the chapter. So you're reading the book and writing the book based on what you've read. This is what life is, man. You have to stop wasting your life, because a life, like a mind, is a terrible thing to waste. And the major thing that I find that men get caught up in this society, man, and this is a big one for me, men get caught up in living a life that satisfies other people and not themselves. Man, I do what I want to do. And that's not to say, I'm this almighty, all powerful being, but I have built my life. I've gone through the struggles and grind of building the life that I love, that I enjoy, that I embrace, that I promote. You understand what I'm saying? You have to do that in your own life, whatever that life is. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. If your life is to have the job of a lifetime, your dream job, okay, go live that life. Stop listening and envying people who have a life that you don't even want. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire. So if you don't want to be a millionaire, why are you envying people and patterning your life after people whose goal is to be a millionaire? You see what I'm saying? This is about embracing yourself, knowing who you are. And the more you learn yourself, guess what? Magically, mysteriously, you'll know God better, because God is only connected to the true you. You can't create a figment of who you are, a figment of your imagination, or some image you want to portray that's not realistic. You can't create that and live that and think you're going to be close to God. God doesn't know that fictional character. He doesn't know that person. And that person doesn't know God either. The Spirit of God is in you. Everybody looking out, everybody trying to go somewhere and find God. The Spirit of God is in you. You just have to connect to it. You connect to the Spirit within you, automatically connects you to the Spirit of God, man. You have to connect to your spirit, man. And nobody's talking about that anymore. Everybody wants you to accomplish something. Accomplish learning yourself. Accomplish getting in touch with your spirit, man. Accomplish finding that peace of mind. Accomplish finding that willpower. Accomplish finding that balance. Satisfy your soul. Satisfy your soul, not your wood, not your belly, not your mind, not your eyes, not your nose, not your taste buds. Satisfy your soul. This entire life is about satisfying your soul. If you satisfy your soul, you find the type of happiness that most people in this life die pursuing. But that happiness is to the right, and they spend their lives pursuing that happiness to the left, going further and further away from it. That's why you go to some of the least developed countries in the world, and they are the happiest. They live the longest. They have the least amount of sickness. They have the least amount of mental illness. You go to some of these places, mental illness is non-existent. You go to some of these places, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, all of these things are non-existent. Why? Because they live a life that satisfies their soul. That's all this is about, man. You got to stop trying to impress people and make people like you. Because most people don't even like themselves. And if someone doesn't like themselves, how in the world are they going to like you? How in the world are they going to like me if they don't even like themselves? We have to keep in mind, brothers, that no matter what, you are all you have. You were born into this world alone, and no one will be in that coffin with you. You'll be casket sharp in a sharp casket, all by your lonesome. And everything in the meantime, you are the reason for the season in everything you do. You have to live your life that way. That is how you end up surrounding yourself with people who are all about growth and harvest in that season. And also when it's time to plant. You got people around you who just want to come when it's time to reap. But you got to have people around you who are around you when it's time to reap, because they went through the hard work when it was time to sow. Everybody can harvest. That's when everything is plenty. plentiful. But when it's time to sow, that's when you got to get down and dirty. You got to get in the dirt. You got to get in the mud. You got to pull some weeds. You got to do some plowing. Ain't nothing out there but dirt. As far as I can see, never plowed field. Who wants to do that? There's no beauty in that. It's just dirt. But the payoff at the end is only meant for you and those who help sow. Stop trying to impress people. And let me tell you something. Be honest with yourself about yourself. Don't try to be something you're not because you have allowed yourself to believe that that's who you are. If you're not gangster, don't try to be gangster. If you're not a player, don't try to be a player. Be who you are. Be who you are. That's what self-help is. Help yourself embrace yourself. Help yourself understand yourself. Help yourself love yourself. And as men, I'm going to be honest with you, as men, we shouldn't have a problem with self-love. If you have a problem with self-love, you have a problem with knowing yourself. So it's not just about knowing, it's not just about loving yourself. It's about knowing yourself so you can know what you love. Everybody can say, I love myself. I love myself. You love yourself. Why? What do you love about yourself? If you ask 50 people, do they love themselves? And all 50 say yes. And you ask them, well, why do you love yourself? What do you love about yourself? I guarantee you, the majority of them are going to say something superficial or something simple. I'm nice. I'm kind. I'm considerate of others. You know, they're not going to be honest with themselves about what they love about themselves. You know what I love about myself? I'm selfless enough to help those in need, and I'm selfish enough to not be used. That's what I love about myself. If you ask me, that's the first thing I tell you. I'm selfless enough to help those in need freely, but I'm selfish enough to not be used by anyone. Even if I feel like I'm being used, if I think I'm being used, if I think there's a possibility of me being used, I shut it down. This is what you have to understand, man. Anybody who's not benefiting your process is a detriment to your process. Male, female, intimate relationship, basic personal platonic relationship, business relationship, anybody who is not benefiting your process is being a detriment to your process. And as men, we have to wrap our mind around the concept that the longer you spend with people around you who are detrimental to your process, the less likely you are to ever get to where you're going. So you can't afford to have one person around you for one day once you realize that they're detrimental to your process. Dead weight is detrimental. So if they're not helping, they're hurting, even if they're not actually hurting intentionally. Whatever position you're in, it's the reality of your life. Whether it's a weak position, strong position, position of submission, some position of power, position you love, position you hate, it is the reality of your life. You need to embrace the space that you're actually in and then put forth the plan to get to the space you want to be in. Stop wasting your life chasing things that satisfy your five senses and instead satisfy your soul.